Welcome to Love TV! What is love? Warning, disclaimer, this first video clip will not adequately describe what love is. It'll merely just provide you with some of the palpable effects of the biological effects of love.
Anywhere between 18 and 80% of patients get better in clinical trials when they're given a sugar pill or a saline injection, or most effectively a placebo surgery, a fake surgery. So we discovered that there's something about belief. This is not from woo-woo journals. This is from very mainstream medical journals like the New England Journal of Medicine or the Journal of the American Medical Association. Well-researched data demonstrating that some combination of positive belief and the nurturing care of a healthcare provider, somebody in a white coat that we've given a lot of authority to, who is caring and loving, that when we combine that positive belief with that nurturing care, which is how I define the placebo effect, that something happens to the physical body that can look like a miracle, and maybe it is.
That it's actually a connection between two living brains and a connection of some considerable power over the mind and the body. And we know that across this connection that people establish, they can send information back and forth, they can regulate each other's bodily rhythms across that link, and they can even change the structure of each other's brains across that link. And that totality is what love is.
But when you're really connecting with somebody else, your heart rhythms come into sync, your biochemistries come into sync, even your neural firings come into sync. It's as if in that micro moment, a single positive emotion is rolling across two brains and bodies at once, creating a momentary resonance of good feeling and goodwill between you. Now, what's more is that as you have more of these micro moments of connection in your daily life, it changes you. It changes you for the better, not just socially and psychologically, but also physically.
Well, when mammals first evolved, they had something of a difficult problem. Reptiles give birth to eggs, which don't need any care, but mammals give birth to live, helpless animals that need quite sophisticated care if they're going to survive. So that a parent mammal has to be able to discern if the infant is hungry or tired or cold or thirsty or what it needs, and provide for those specific needs, or the infant will die. So mammals evolve parts of their brains that are oriented specifically towards sensing signals that come from another mammal, interpreting them, and feeling disposed to care for the needs that are sensed there.
So this is more than simple emotion. This is more than happiness or sadness. This is a part of us that is hardwired to understand how the other person is feeling. And
we get a direct sensory experience, actually, of the insides of another person's brain, which is quite remarkable if you think about it. But if you and I knew each other well, I could sense what's going on in your brain.
We are designed as a very social species. We're designed to connect. Did you know that FaceTime, time in the physical presence of our loved ones, actually puts the brakes on our stress response? Did you know that our ancestors spent all day, every day in the company of their loved ones, their friends? Think about the extensive FaceTime they shared with the people that matter most. And what have we done? We've traded FaceTime for screen time. FaceTime for Facebook. Is that better? And the result is devastating.
now, among other heresies that are exploded in the book is therapy. I mean, everyone goes, not everyone, many of us go to therapists in order to improve our love life. And you're saying that, again, therapy doesn't work, or if it does, certainly not the way we expect it to work.
Well, therapy certainly can work, and it can be powerful for some people, but not in the way that most therapists, including most patients, think about it. Because if you realize that a relationship is really this biological, physiologic link between two emotional brains, then suddenly therapy appears in a whole new light. It's not just two people talking to one another, having a conversation. It's really this wireless emotional link, and what's being performed in the therapy should be an experience of relatedness that's different than what the person experiences outside. And that's really the changing aspect of theory, or the mutative aspect of therapy is that new relationship, not, say, any particular insights or any particular intellectual
so it's not
knowledge.
the content of the therapy per se that may be helping, it's the fact that over time you might become more like the therapist.
Precisely.
Which is stable and reasonable and...
Precisely, if you have a stable, reasonable therapist.
Right.
And not everybody does. But people probably ought to be aware of that and ought to try and choose their therapist with a lot of care and discrimination, because essentially you're asking to become more like that person.
Matters to the brain. Have you heard of rumination? It's the habit of dwelling on our negative thoughts repeatedly at length. It ramps up our brain's stress circuitry, and that in turn interferes with the whole process of memory consolidation. It's the big reason why memory tends to suffer whenever we're stressed and we get trapped inside our own heads. And the research shows we're most likely to ruminate whenever we're completely alone. On the other hand, FaceTime with our loved ones, it doesn't just protect us against toxic rumination. It also directly puts the brakes on the brain's stress response. And the benefits can range from lower anxiety to better quality sleep to, yes, better memory. Now, whenever we hear the term chemical imbalance, most of us, I think, reflexively assume medication must be the answer. And yet the relevant neuroscience leads us to a somewhat different conclusion. There are many different ways of changing neurochemistry. Most of them have nothing to do with medication. It's why I believe in the long run, the most effective way of balancing neurochemistry is to balance our lives. Remember, experience changes the brain.
Whenever you have an experience, you devote more of your brain to processing that.
Well, oxytocin doesn't only act on your brain, it also acts on your body. And one of its main roles in your body is to protect your cardiovascular system from the effects of stress. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It also helps your blood vessels stay relaxed during stress. But my favorite effect on the body is actually on the heart. Your heart has receptors for this hormone. And oxytocin helps heart cells regenerate and heal from any stress-induced damage. This stress hormone strengthens your heart. And the cool thing is that all of these physical benefits of oxytocin are enhanced by social contact and social support. So when you reach out to others under stress, either to seek support or to help someone else, you release more of this hormone, your stress response becomes healthier, and you actually recover faster from stress. I find this amazing that your stress response has a built-in mechanism for stress resilience. And that mechanism is human connection.
One way to change our genes is to make new ones, as Craig Venter has so elegantly shown. Another is to change our lifestyles. And what we're learning is how powerful and dynamic these changes can be, that you don't have to wait very long to see the benefits. When you eat healthier, manage stress, exercise, and love more, your brain actually gets more blood flow and more oxygen. But more than that, your brain gets measurably bigger. Things that were thought impossible just a few years ago can actually be measured now. Your heart gets more blood flow. We've shown that you can actually reverse heart disease, that these clogged arteries that you see in the upper left, after only a year, become measurably less clogged. And the cardiac PET scan shown in the lower left, the blue means no blood flow. A year later, orange and white is maximal blood flow. We've shown you may be able to stop or reverse the progression of early prostate cancer, by extension breast cancer, simply by making these changes. We found that tumor growth in vitro was inhibited 70% in the group that made these changes, whereas only 9% in the comparison group. These differences were highly significant. Even your sexual organs get more blood flow, so you increase sexual potency. Now, we're about to publish 2 new studies, one in collaboration with Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who won a Lasker Prize a couple of years ago for discovering telomerase. Telomerase is an enzyme that repairs telomeres, which are the ends of your chromosomes that control how long you live, obviously pretty important. And what we showed is that simply in just 3 months, by making these simple changes, you can actually increase your telomerase, thereby lengthening your telomeres and living longer. And we're also about to publish a study, the first study showing you can change gene expression in men with prostate cancer. This is what's called a heat map, and the different colors, and along the side on the right are different genes. And we found that over 500 genes were favorably changed. And in fact, turning on the good genes, the disease-preventing genes, turning off the disease-promoting genes. And so these findings, I think, are really very powerful. They're giving many people new hope and new choices. And companies like Navigenics and DNA Direct and 23andMe that are giving you your genetic profiles are getting some people a sense of, gosh, well, what can I do about it? Well, our genes are not our fate. And if we make these changes, they're a predisposition. But if we make bigger changes than we might have made otherwise, we can actually change how our genes are expressed.
And if you don't know, now you know.